Hi everyone, it's Friday night, 8 o'clock, and it's 7's time again. Though the boys are back, the Barcelona boys, and last week we were in the USA for the Los Angeles 7's. Now it's the Vancouver 7's in Canada. We were hoping that Sean Nicholas could join us. Unfortunately, he's moving house, and his fibre is still not 100%. But I do have at Son of a Punt here. I've got both of them on the screen, as you can see. Lads, good to welcome you. It's been you guys, if I could say, were one of the few 7's punters I think that came out on top in Los Angeles. A few of the guys battled a little bit, but I saw in your feed you were 11 out of 17 tips, I think, something like that.
Yeah, how's Brent? Thanks again for having us. Last weekend was much tougher. Or it's been tougher than the first 4 or 5 tournaments that we had. But yeah, we were operating around 70%, which is still a pretty decent strike rate, and it was still a profitable weekend. Although I think the bookies, are starting to get their markets more and more accurate from the get-go, and there are not as many discrepancies in like round 2 and round 3 as there have been in the past. But I think that's the nature of the game, and that's when you need to start getting really selective and really picking your teams and knowing the fundamentals about injuries and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be another tough weekend. The bookies look like they've priced up quite nicely, but we're ready for a high-scoring Vancouver 7's.
Yeah, no, we're ready for battle again. Also, what set us apart from I think most other punters last week is we stayed awake for the full 12 hours of games. So at one stage, we saw that it got a bit greasy on the pitch and the points lines didn't move. So we just bombed a couple unders there and they just hit in one after another one. But most of the people on the group were fast asleep.
Yeah, I was going to say I saw that, but I only saw it the next morning when I woke up. There was no ways I was staying up all night, and you guys got the reward, because if you can pick up on something like that, then the bookies do sometimes take a while to respond.
Yeah, this was about 4:30 a.m. So it was dedication, and we'd lost 3 bets in a row, and then finally the grease appeared. So it was it was just a sign from God for our patience.
That's it. And just first of all, welcome to the guys in the live chat. We'll certainly have a lot of guys watching it afterwards as well, because we did bring this out at fairly short notice. But Chris coming on, he says he's here to earn some beer money, crossed out second mortgage deposit, and then just complimenting you guys that you've been doing some great work. And just I wanted to touch on that before we move into the betting. I think one of the things which also separates you a little bit from some of the other 7's guys is that you do look beyond the handicap at the total points lines. And sometimes I think that's quite important, because sometimes you do look at the game and the bookies have got it right, but perhaps they made a mistake on the points. So I think it's quite a good idea that you don't just look at the handicaps, that you look at the points as well. And I've already picked up in your early comments here that you mentioned the words high scoring. What are your reasons for that?
Yeah, I was about to butt in there, and I was going to say, especially this weekend, it's one to look at the points, because they're just looking at the stats here. And I think the tournament last year in Vancouver was the 4th highest scoring 7's tournament ever in terms of tries per matches. So I think it's going to be a big overs tournament, especially with the pitch. I think I was looking at some Instagram stories the other day, and that pitch is looking pristine. So definitely going to help for running rugby and an overs tournament for sure.
Just to add to Andy's point there, obviously the roof, the Vancouver Stadium has a roof. And the weather this weekend in Vancouver is cold. It's about 7 degrees. Not great conditions, but with that roof closed, and they've got heaters in the stadium, so really the vibe's up. There's music and the vibes bouncing off the roof, and the heat's in there, so it's perfect conditions for rugby. And as Andy said, it was, I think, the 4th highest scoring tournament ever, and generally it's a high scoring tournament, and there's no reason for it not to be. It has to be self-inflicted if it's not going to be. So we're looking forward to some at least entertaining games, whether or not they're winners or losers, at least entertaining ones.
Excellent. Well, let's start, guys, with a quick look at the outright betting. I'm just bringing up World Sports betting site here. Fiji 23-10, South Africa 59-20. That's just shy of 3-1. Just over 7-2 New Zealand, USA 7-1, and then 33-4 Australia, and 27-2 and better the balance. Anything on the outright front, whether it be long term to win or in the groups that caught your eye? I see South Africa got quite a tough group.
Yeah. So firstly, nothing's necessarily stood out as per se, because it's tough to look past the big 3, as in Fiji, South Africa, New Zealand, and then like probably a USA of sorts. It's tough to look past them and see anyone really beating them and going the whole way and winning the title. However, obviously there is still value to appear. And I think the one thing that obviously we'll touch on a bit more later, but England have a really, really weak side at this tournament, and we'll touch on it more when we get to the handicap game. But basically, I mean, Argentina at 8 to top South Africa's pool is pretty good, because I know JC Pretoria, South Africa's star player, is now the 13th man for this week. He will be reserving. I think they're doing some. Neil Powell's always looking to tweak and integrate new players and whatnot. So Argentina at 8 to win the pool is quite high, considering that you would never get them at 8 to beat South Africa in a match. And then also for them to get out the pool, provide some value and potentially some sort of outright, because I know they're quite high, nearing 50 to 1. But the semi-finals are estimated to be South Africa and New Zealand on the one side, and Fiji versus like an Australia or USA on the other side. So it's tough. Look, can you see anyone beating a South Africa, New Zealand, or Fiji?
Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough.
For these fall tournament bets, like those top 3 aren't really worth it. Like to bet on them for the whole tournament, you're going to be watching this whole tournament. You only get 3 times or 4 times your money back for this whole bet, and like all the pressure that comes with that. So we generally try to target high odds. So that's why that Argentina one's quite nice. And then also the value will lie in the bottom half of the pool. So whoever tops pool D, which will be Australia or USA, because then they'll be on the bottom half, and the top half will have the Blitzbokke and New Zealand. So if you can pick the winner of pool D, they have a good shot as well. So Australia or USA, and we're going to probably go with Australia with Argentina as our 2 outright players or punts, because they also both have a knack of beating Fiji. Although Australia got pumped by them last weekend, I'm sure they'll be looking to make amends there as well. So in terms of value, it's probably going to be Australia or Argentina.
Just a few of these, not too much.
Not too few of those. Well, we got Van, one of our veteran punters on the forum. He always says he bets the beer money, but I wonder how much beer he drinks. Might be quite a bit of bucks at the end of the day. But guys, let's go on to the games. I've just had a look at World Sports betting prices, but obviously if you see anything else, if you know a better line or whatever that interests you, but we'll go USA Samoa. I've got USA a minus 12.5 and points at the moment set at 38.5.
Yeah, so this was this was the first bet we released for the weekend. I mean, Samoa have, I want to say they've been unlucky this entire series. I think their highest finish is 11th. Obviously, they've got Gordon Titchens at the helm, running the show, and they probably should be doing a lot better than what they have been. Obviously, they were affected by the measles and whatnot, and they've had their stumbling blocks, and they haven't performed to the best of their ability. In saying that, USA team is only starting to get some of their big boys back, like Martin Yosefo and Matty Hughes, and I think they're a bit disappointed after last week's performance in LA. And I think they'll want to at least try and perform on relative home soil, North America anyway. I think USA on minus 11 is the handicap play that I would choose. However, the bet that we've gone with is the bet that you posted on the forum, which was, you went on the forum with USA and over 37.5 match points. We punted just over 36.5 match points, and 36 and 37 is effectively the same thing, just requires 6 tries and 4 conversions. But as we mentioned earlier, in these conditions in Vancouver with a covered stadium, tries are going to be flowing. Perry Baker and Colin Isles are going to be licking their lips yet again. And both these teams, I mean, obviously USA have the X factors, and Samoa like broken play. And don't have a great defense either. So, I mean, we could see a relatively high-scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised to see 7 or 8 tries in this game, and hopefully the overs flies home.
Yeah, even if it was to land on 6 tries, which is pretty stock standard in a 7's game, you normally have 3 tries a half. USA obviously have Isles and Baker on the wings, and they don't score anywhere but under the poles, especially with Samoa. They get pretty demotivated, and they don't chase. Their heads start to drop. So then 4 conversions honestly doesn't look like that much if they start 3 in a row. So especially those tries are going to be coming from USA anyway. So that's why the over 37 is appealing for us.
Excellent. So overs in the opening game. Let's go on to the next game. It's Australia against Scotland. The handicap I've got here is 18.5, minus 18.5 Australia. Is that correct? And then 38.5 points.
Yeah, those are the correct caps at the moment. I think you can even get plus 19.5 for Scotland at Superbet. And yeah, that was the first thing that jumped out at us because Scotland had been getting very unlucky. They don't have a bad team at all. They managed to get points on the board. They got a couple speedsters as well, so they should be scoring tries. And the defense has let them down a bit. And Australia were obviously really good last tournament and had the speed. But in this sort of group, they're just going to look to get the win and get out of there. So they just need 2-3 wins, and they should be going through. So we think 19.5 on the cap is too much, but our play here was over 10.5, or we actually got 9.5 Scotland points in the match. So just 2 tries from them, conversions don't matter. And on this high scoring pitch, you should see Max McFarland and they got Dougie Fife in as well. I'm sure they'll be going around the outside and hopefully dotting down just 2 tries in the match should be good. On that note, Scotland have lost Sam Procure, which is one of their best players, but that was with Dougie Fife coming in. So that's probably our player here.
Yeah, also just one more thing to... Sorry, go for it, Brent.
No, I was just going to say to the guys in the live chat, one of your big fans, Oracle Rugby's just pulled into the live chat. They says he's impressed the maths of 7's. Obviously, from when you were talking about the 36 and the 37 points.
It deteriorates with the hours of the morning and the number of beers consumed. But we start off knowing the maths of 7's anyway.
But sorry, what were you guys saying though? Sorry?
Just to add there, obviously plus 18.5 has been available. And Scotland, I mean, they're one of those teams that, I mean, I really think they're a solid outfit. And they're always on the wrong side of a teen point handicap. So for example, if the cap's 16.5, I'll have bet on the plus 16.5. It'll be a 12-point discrepancy in the last play, and then Carlin Isles will go right around the outside and score the try, or like an Aussie will go down and score, and they'll lose the cap by half a point. So I think I've lost the Scotland cap by half a point 3 or 4 times out of the last 4 times. I'm bound to hopefully get one right. But the thing is, at 18.5, we prefer the points line because of the high scoring nature of Vancouver. And also because if it was to be, let's say, 26-7 to Australia, because you probably have to see 3 to 4 tries coming in from Australia at least, probably 4 or 5, then you still lose the plus 18.5. So rather go on the points line, and then it kind of gives you the security for Australia to win the game, something along the lines of 33 points to 12. However, the plus 19.5, that 1 point difference does make a big difference, especially if Australia miss a conversion or 2.
Excellent. So this is the plus there, and then also looking at the points as well there, guys. And you said you got Scotland points 9.5.
Yeah, but I think there's some hawks out there. Hawks out there with betting companies, eh?
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, the lines move very quickly, particularly in 7's. But no, for sure. Let's go on to England against Argentina. Now, this I know you guys won Argentina from the start. The handicap appears to have come in. England minus 3.5 there at WSB, and the line very consistent actually throughout most of the games. It's 38.5 a game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked how this is still an RG's plus, to be honest. This is what I was alluding to at the beginning. So basically what's happened with England is we saw this morning that Dan Bibby and Dan Norton, 2 of their most experienced, and Dan Norton, the highest try scorer of all time, have both flown back to London with injuries. And this just adds to their long list of injuries. They've got Will Muir, Richard de Carpentier, Harry Glover. It's basically an entire first team of injury, and Ollie Lindsay-Haig, of course, who's been their star player in the last 3 or 4 tournaments. So that's an entire starting 6 or 7 of injuries. And unfortunately, you can't be competitive missing your 6 or 7 best players. And Argentina have been solid. They did lose Luciano Gonzalez, who's one of their X factors. However, last weekend on restarts, I think they were second in the tournament for restarts. They would literally kick off, and then either Ojushko or German Schultz would tap the ball back, and they would win it. And they would then, once they have the ball, they're extremely dangerous. Their tackling stats aren't great, but when they've got the ball, they're extremely dangerous. And now England, without Dan Norton, who's their X factor, they do have a Tom Bowen, but he's not as scary as Dan Norton. Without Dan Norton, are they going to have enough to break the tackles of the Argentinians? I definitely don't think so. So I think for us, the play here is we've seen plus 4.5 at Superbets, which doesn't really make a difference to plus 3.5 unless it's a relatively high-scoring game with misconversions. Yes. But yeah, I mean, plus 4.5 Argentina on the board at 2.7. these are all bets that we like. And we tweeted the plus 4.5. The higher risk bet is to take Argentina on the board as well, or a draw no bet. Last week we personally took Argentina to beat France, and they were winning comfortably, and then the game ended up as a draw. So this weekend, personally, privately, we've gone Argentina draw no bet against England, just to get rid of that bit of discomfort, just in case. But we see I see Argentina winning this one quite comfortably, to be honest.
Yeah, England can make a better sevens team with the injuries they have than the one they're currently fielding. And also, Argentina had this new gen called Marcus Moneta, who I think was tied top try scorer last weekend in Los Angeles. And he is blitzvinnig. I think every time he got the ball, he went around Fijian players. He went around anyone in his sight. So without Dan Norton marking that guy, I think it could get a bit ugly for the Poms.
Well, I'm going to make a prediction here based on your confidence on this and the fact that the line has already edged a little bit, although, as you say, perhaps not as quick as you want. I'm going to make a prediction that this game starts perhaps a choice game, maybe even Argentina's slight favourite, because you certainly do make a good case. Just having a look at the times, that one's coming on at about 7:45 tomorrow night. So 24 hours from now, we'll know whether we hit that one. But I certainly like your confidence, and I will definitely be getting involved in that one. Let's move on to the Blitz box then, guys. And here it's against Japan. It's one of these big handicaps, minus 28.5 South Africa.
Yeah, we put a lot of research into this game midweek because we were trying to find out Japanese team news, which is near to impossible. Eventually, I got hold of an Instagram photo that tagged each player, so we managed to track them down and get their caps per game and all that. And look, it's not a half bad Japanese side. They got lots of Takiri there. They got a couple Yakai or Baka, I don't know what it's name. Oh, Fujita or something. I can't remember.
Fujita, did you have the direct shot last night?
But it's really not a bad side. So we were expecting a higher cap by being mispriced, and we we're going to jump on it. But 27.5 is probably fair here. So looking at the cap, we don't have any real strong players, but we were looking at Japanese points. We wanted to have any Japanese over 4.5 points, but we haven't found that yet. We've only found over 5.5 points for Japan. So if we can find over 4.5 points for Japan, we'll be on that. Because look, at the end of the day, it's 14 minutes. You just need one lucky bounce of the ball. They got a bit of pace. They can offload. And we saw comments earlier in the week by Neil Powell that he's tweaking the team a bit. Angelo Davids, one of our smallest players, is putting in at hooker in the group game. So obviously experimenting a bit, and JC Pretorius, who's been in the dream team twice in the last 2 weeks, is, as Jordan said, 13th man. So you never know. He's one of our biggest tacklers. I'm sure the Japanese can swing in a try, maybe two.
And just a bit of a warning to those people watching in the live chat there, Oracle Rugby, he says the handicap is 12 points shy of what it should be. But I must tell you that about 4 hours ago, I was sent a picture of Oracle Rugby drinking a beer. And that was about 4 hours ago. So just be careful listening there to what Oracle says on that one. But let's move on to the next game. Ireland up against Spain. We got the Irish here minus 11.5, and the points line once again 38.5.
Yeah, sorry, just one more thing on South Africa. I mean, how incredible were they in that final last weekend, Brent?
Geez. Well, I actually did I just miss it, or would it have been while I was sleeping? I actually can't remember. But I think I woke up. And I saw it. And I tell you what, when I watched it, guys, I mean, I knew we won. I'd seen the result. I knew we won, and I was watching it, and I was thinking, it's one of those games you're watching, and you know that they come back and win, but you're going, how the hell do they do it? I mean, what was it? 34 seconds left on the clock or something. We were still trailing by 12 points. Absolutely insane comeback. And I recall them doing it once before, I think in Singapore, something sort of similar. But, it's tough things like that. That's when 7's rugby, it's unbelievable to watch. And that was phenomenal. Did you fancy them in that final? Did you fancy them?
Yeah, story just to tell you on that note. So Jordan and I got home, and we had a couple beers. We were having a couple beers in the afternoon, got home for the late games, and we were putting in a couple punts. And we thought, let's take SA on the board, chuck a bit of profit on it. We had a good weekend. So we threw some profit on it, and I actually fell asleep during the game. And I woke up about 7 hours later, 6 a.m. on the couch, I think. And I looked at my phone. I saw a tweet notification saying, Blitzbooker, lift the trophy. So I was like,
from the sound of the punt.
I was like, incredible, we've won it. and then go back to sleep, wake up again later, and I see that they won in extra time. So obviously we lost our bet there.
Oh wow, yeah.
But yeah, in saying that, I was awake this whole time, and like I was trying to like wake Andy up at halftime because I was also quite tired. Like it was quite late, and like obviously at halftime, South Africa were at about 17 to win the game. Not that interested me, but like I knew South Africa would give up. You know, I thought maybe a plus 12 or 14.5 is the play, but it wasn't to be. And then when Selwyn Davids hooked that kick when it was 24-12, could have been 24-14, I knew that at that moment I was like, there's our chance of winning. But I mean, Branko du Preez, that try and then starting the kick from the corner, incredible. So small price to pay.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, when I watched the highlights as well, unfortunately, the version I watched didn't show the final conversion. Cool. Because it wasn't exactly under the post set by any means. It was one of those in 7's. You'd probably call it fifth. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it was really,
and it was weak side for a left-footed kicker.
Yeah, no, it was amazing that went over because, I mean, no, it was really incredible. And let's hope we get that sort of action again in the Canada 7's. And, it's that sort of, I mean, I would love to have seen in-running betting. You say 17 to 1 at halftime, which I can well believe. But can you imagine, assuming that guys were still pricing up with like 40 seconds to go, where South Africa had to score twice to sort of be in the game? I mean, I'm sure you could have got 40, 50 to 1 about them. Unbelievable performance. Let's go on, guys, to Ireland against Spain. Here we got Ireland minus 11.5 against the Spanish, who I know the Spain, I just remember them last week. They were your first bet against England. Was it against England and they won the game or something ridiculous? I mean, you were plus 21 and they ended up winning the match.
It was actually a 38-point swing to the handicap. So we were on plus 21 and they won the game by about 19 points or something. So, I mean, it was absolutely incredible. Spain were brilliant. I mean, as we said, we don't enjoy their style of play. They run side to side. But, I mean, they're solid when they need to be solid. And then they're not good when they need to clear a minus. So, for example, if they're playing against a Wales or a Japan, then you stay away from them because they don't know how to do it. But sometimes, in those games against like an England or something, they know how to hang around and then they bog the other team down. They don't let them play their style. And against England, it showed. I mean, they absolutely smashed them, for lack of a better term. Anyway, in this game, Ireland have Horahan back?
Yeah, Foster Horahan.
Yeah, Foster Horahan back, who's big for them. And again, it's that same. They're keeping that same gelled unit that they've taken from tournament to tournament, and they really are an improved side. The cap for this game is usually around 5 or 6. So, I mean, for these two teams, it's a relatively high cap. But Ireland, are winning the cap here 2-1. For me, at 11.5 cap or 10.5, it's a no play. I like Ireland. They're one of my teams. I like Conroy. Although in the last two tournaments he can't catch a cold, which is a pity because he'd be on about 150 tournament tries by now if he could. But Terry Kennedy, Jordan Conroy, and a solid team unit. Ireland are great for me. And to be honest, personally, I think if I was pushed, I would take an Ireland minus. But I think it's quite well priced, and I'm going to stay away. We'll be staying away.
Yeah, I think on the other side, if I was pushed, I would take the Spanish plus. I think I have seen 12.5 somewhere. I'm not 100% sure where, but I won't take it at 11.5, and I probably still won't take it at 12.5. But Spain played well last week. They really did, beating England and getting a couple close results against New Zealand as well. I think they only lost about by 14 points against New Zealand, so they're showing that they can tackle as well. So yeah, it's one of those. It's a no bet. We arguing with this one, so it's one of those you just stay away from.
That's it. Nothing wrong with staying away from again. I want to ask you a quick question. You talked about a 38-point swing on the handicap there last week. Have any of you guys ever done spread betting before?
Yeah, I've just signed up to this UK spread betting site called SpreadX. The one that Gary Linton was talking about. So yeah. I've never exactly participated personally, but I mean I've looked at it and now I've got an account there, so now I'm going to be at least looking into it. It's definitely a higher risk, and you need to know what you're doing. And I think it'll take time to understand what's potting, but thanks. It's something that we've just come to get to know, and I think it's definitely, if you're confident in something, it's something where a lot of money can be made.
That's it. I mean, I love my spread betting. I actually haven't done it for about a year. I kind of, there's all sorts of things with the opening account, but I have played on SpreadX, and it is amazing. The one thing I will say is I don't think spread betting lends itself to 7's really, because there's quite a big, if you look at the margin, you've got the 3-point margin, for example, on Supremacy, and you've only got a 14-minute game, whereas over 80 minutes, you can get bigger fluctuations. But certainly, good to hear, and keep us informed of your progress of spread betting, because I enjoy it. I mean, I've had some good runs, and it's a sort of thing that when you lose your discipline, you can really lose a lot of money quickly. And particularly, I was playing in pounds and not rands, and I'm up overall in spreads over the years, but I've had times where I had to say, right, I'm taking 6 months off because I just it's such an adrenaline rush, and when things are going well, there's nothing better. When things are going badly, it can be pretty depressing.
I don't want to hear about this. I have enough temptations at the moment.
Yeah, I was actually considering whether I should even raise it with you guys. I'm pleased to hear you have opened an account, because you're quite right. There's a lot of temptation there. Let's move on to New Zealand up against Kenya, minus 18.5 New Zealand.
Geez, Brent, I don't know where to start. Kenya, each week, I think we all think they're going to perform, including Raga Baga as well. You think it's Kenya's time, especially last week. They got in Los Angeles, they got all their big names back. They had a very solid team, and then just once again, they just couldn't get any sort of results. I think they finished last again, or close to last for like the 14th, second or third tournament in a row now. So they just aren't clicking at the moment. Whereas New Zealand, obviously, they're playing really good rugby. I don't think they had their strongest side in Los Angeles last week, and I've been looking to find some final team news, which I haven't found yet, because they need a playmaker back. They're missing Karoi and Newstub, so it'll make a huge difference if they had them back for Vancouver, but we're not 100% sure yet. So I think this game, it's probably something we're going to stay away again. There is 19.5 available. We saw it on Super Bets, and that 19.5, we're probably on the plus. It's just really hard to take after they did us dirty last week. Another bet that I was looking at was that you can get Kenya to score a try in the first half against New Zealand, so over 4.5 points. And like again, it's one of those things like they're going to have a lot of energy. If they just break one tackle and one good offload, like New Zealand are a good team, but anyone can score against them at the end of the day. So it's probably worth a shot.
Right, especially in the early rounds. So a bit of a no bet there though for you guys. Perhaps Kenya over 4.5. Anything else on that game before we move on to France, Canada?
No, it's a tough one, and I mean your heart always says Kenya, but the head says New Zealand minus or no bet. So I will stay away.
Excellent, nice sound that I must admit. France minus 4.5 against Canada.
Wow, so this is an interesting one. So this is one where when we priced the markets a few days ago, we were expecting it more like -7 or -10 even. So this was interesting. But then Andy slid into JP Barak's DMs. JP Barak is the French playmaker. So he slid into his DMs on Instagram. And he found out that he said, JP, why are you flying? Where are you going on this in this first class seat? He says, no. JP replies, I'm heading back to France. I'm injured. I'm not playing in the Vancouver 7's. So Andy was officially the first person in the world to know about JP Barak.
Brilliant.
That's a huge loss, because JP Barak is the playmaker, and I mean they do have guys like Veridamu and Lejel and Remy Siega. And the list goes on, to be honest. But without a playmaker, it's tough to unite these guys. And this has been seen with USA. USA are a team of superstars, but without Falau Niua, and when they were missing Matty Hughes, I mean, you struggle to get unity in a side. So it's tough. Like if you'd offered me -3 or -4.5 on France against Canada last week, I probably would have emptied out on it. Now it's also Canada's home tournament. That's something we have to remember. And Andrew Koo is back for them. And Justin Douglas is back, and he was looking quite quick on the weekend. So yeah, I actually can't say much more about this game. It's scary.
Yeah. So Canada have been playing really good rugby recently. I think last week they had some good results, and they lost a couple of the games where they were winning with 2 minutes to go, and they conceded 2 late tries, and they also had a tough set of fixtures last week, if I remember correctly. And they really are playing great rugby, and with their big names back, they're showing that they can have a bit of pace on the ball. They got 2 youngsters in the squad now as well. Yeah, it's probably without JP Barak, it's probably down to a choice game now. And in a choice game, we always do favor the plus, and we'd love plus 5.5. I think that would be great. But at 4.5, it's super tough. At the moment, we're probably staying away. I think Jordan likes the minus. I like the plus. So it's one of those again where we're probably going to leave it.
It's also one of those actually that maybe it's one to look at in play.
Yeah.
So I mean, for example, if the first half ends 14-5 or 14-7 to France, for example, then you might be able to get a plus 10 on Canada. And depending on the situation, that could be the right play. Or the opposite way around. Canada might go 14-0 up or 14-5 up at halftime. And then that's something to look at. Maybe take France with a plus 4.5 now at halftime, because France are a good side. Regardless of who they're missing, will they lose by more than 5 or 6? Probably not. So if you can get something like that at halftime, that's where the value might be. I don't think the value is at the beginning of the game, unless you really are bullish on Canada.
Okay, and let's move on to the last game then. Fiji up against Wales. This is a big one. Points line 49.5 and Fiji minus 35.5.
Yeah, just before I get started, I was looking at these caps again. I think for the first 3 games, we were very bullish and we had very strong players. And then ever since South Africa, Japan, we've just had a couple no bets. So we apologize for that. But I guess shows that these latter couple of games are well priced. So yeah, looking at Fiji Wales, Fiji have lost Tui Mamba, which is pretty big. He's one of their top try scorers, and he can really score from anywhere. He's got extreme pace. He's, I think, one of the biggest players on the circuit as well. But in saying that, Fiji lose someone who's big and very fast, and all of a sardine, they call in someone else who is very big and very fast as well. They've got incredible depth, and they can just roll in these players week after week. So Fiji are obviously still going to be very strong, and Wales showed that they were not that bad last weekend. They had this one quick guy on the wing called Lloyd Lewis, and he was able to get around a couple players and score. So if Wales do score a 7-pointer, this minus 35.5 does look very dodgy, because that means Fiji would have to score, I think. Actually, I'm not even going to try to do the math in play here live, but I think it would be like 7 or even 8 tries if
they can't kick, so 8 tries.
Yeah, so
unless they score under the poles.
So it is dodgy if that Oak can get around one Fijian player and score under the poles. So I don't think I'd take anything here. If maybe you can get Wales over 4.5, I'd take that again. I think I was on that last week, and Wales did manage to score against New Zealand. So it'd be a similar play, but nothing big here.
Okay, so nothing too solid on there. Guys, anything else? Any other comments on the tournament? What you're going to be looking out for maybe in the first round that you can try capitalize on with the bookies in the second?
Yeah, I mean, it should be an overs tournament, and it's one of those tournaments that if you were to blindly go overs for every single game, you'll probably win more than you'll lose. So, I mean, I think there've been tournaments like this before. Usually it's Paris and London, but it's kind of those that, like, the lines are still in the 30s, and they probably should be around the 7 try lines because of the conditions. So it's one of those that if you blindly went over, you're probably going to win more than you do. So I think over will probably come home 5 out of the 7 games. So I think it's going to be an overs tournament, which is nice because no one really likes to be betting on those unders games. It's not great to watch. It's not great for everyone. But yeah, I think that's probably something we're going to be looking out for, especially when the quotes are in the 30s.
And maybe if that first game, if we see that it's very high scoring, before the bookies manage to adjust, just jump on the overs for the rest of the games, because some of these European bookmakers have 40.5 for points. I think it was William Hill, and the ones you brought up now were all 38.5, and most of the ones in South Africa are 38.5. So they obviously think they're going to be points. So if that first game is high scoring, which we hope it is for our bet as well, we're definitely going to jump on some overs line just in advance for the rest of the games. And yeah, just looking ahead to the second round of games, obviously we'll be tweeting our players live, but one fixture that jumps out is England versus Japan. As you say, England is completely depleted at the moment. They have lost a lot of players, and like I know Oracle said that he liked the minus. Japan aren't that bad. So I think if it's another cap that's pretty high, maybe 23, 24.5, then we'll probably be on the plus there for Japan in the second round of games.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm pleased you mentioned the points there. If it is an overs tournament, as you say, the first round's probably the place to get involved there because the bookies will adjust. So if, for example, 6 out of 7 overs comes in or whatever it is in the first round of games, you can be sure that maybe by the second round you're going to get 41, 42 points. You want to take advantage, and I agree with you. If you're watching and things look really good, then rather get on early because the line won't wait for you to get on, that's for sure. Sort of comment here, lonely are the bravest comment. He said, optimists bet on overs, the pessimists stick with unders. And I'm talking as a guy who's been betting for years on rugby, and I was very much known as an overs player. You'll find out something called match shirt numbers at SpreadX there, guys. It's I used to buy and buy and because I loved watching an exciting game of rugby. And I tend to agree with him here, and I know Henrik, for example, is a massive unders punter. But that being said, there's some tournaments or there's some situations where suddenly overs becomes a play, and you've got to be ready, maybe like in this case, to adapt to that. But overall, as a general rule over rugby and that, I would say that the bookmakers tend to enjoy the overs punters more because I think we all bet with, wanting an exciting game. And more often than not, particularly in the rugby union these days, these bloomin' reset scrums and all the rest of it. But I just thought it was an interesting point from him. But certainly, if conditions are right, then there's nothing better than being on an overs bet and watching the tries rain in.
Brent, funny story actually. So Andy and I went to go watch the El Clasico last year, at the end of last year, Barcelona versus Real Madrid soccer match. And it's, obviously notoriously high scoring, some great players on both sides, Messi, Griezmann, Suarez, Hazard, the list is endless. And it hasn't been goalless for 17 years. Anyway, so Andy and I, we get our tickets, and obviously, it's a relatively pricey affair going to El Clasico, but it's a bucket list type thing, and I think it had just been the Dubai and Cape Town 7, so we were rewarding ourselves for some hard work. Anyway, we said to ourselves, okay, we're gonna bet on a 0-0 draw. We're gonna bet on under 0.5 goals and under 1.5 goals, just in case, because then if it's a shit game, at least we get our money back. And if it's a good game, we get the goals and value. And the game actually ended 0-0, but we didn't have the heart to put the money on under 0.5 and under 1.5. So we lost out, but the idea was there. Yeah,
that's often you can talk about betting. Your heart is looking at one thing, and you want to watch a good game. But if you're on unders, you've got the consolation then of at least getting the win. I must just tell you quickly, while we're talking about soccer betting, I'll never get the first time I went on a betting show in South Africa was in 2009, hosted by Neil Andrews, called Betting World, I think it was called at the time. And I went on and I did my research properly on the soccer game. I can't remember, it was Aston Villa against Bournemouth or something. And I've listed stats, last 10 head-to-heads, 4 goals or more. And I went through. And eventually I arrived at my bet, which was overs. And that was my first time on TV ever or anything like that. I was like, this is my bet. 0-0. That's how the game finished. It was one of those things. It was like sometimes you can make such a strong case and it will wipe out. But guys, thanks very much for joining us. Just before we finish, your best bet then in the first round of matches. What do you think? So if you could only place one.
Hold on.
Oh, yes.
Jimmy Pot has to say. It's clear and obvious, eh? No, this guy.
Yeah.
What? It has to be that. Surely.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll give my best bet and he can give his best.
Fair enough.
Okay, well, the genie is telling me it's Argentina plus 4.5 against England.
Right.
You have to touch the genie clock.
Yeah, he was giving me some whispers that it was the first bet that we tweeted, which was the points in the USA Samoa game over 36.5, over 37.5. I'm hoping for a run in there with Colin Niles and Perry Baker around the outside.
Excellent, lads. Thanks. Thanks very much. Enjoy that. Obviously, not a lot of sleep for you guys this weekend. And hope you managed to fit in some social time in between all the rugby as well.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks for having us.
Only a pleasure. That was at Son of a Punt on Twitter. You can find them there. They also post their selections on the Good for the Game forum at the end of each round. So, yeah, guys, looking forward to it. I'm sure Oracle Rugby will be popping onto Twitter a few times to post his selections as well. Seems like he's in a jovial mood for the weekend. Guys, thanks a lot. And thanks to all of you who joined us at very short notice in the live chat.